State Circle is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you.
This week on State Circle, strong medicine to fight a pandemic.
We all need to do our part to stop this virus from spreading.
Protecting nursing home residents.
You don't want it spread to a senior home. They're very susceptible to this virus.
And helping first responders to respond faster.
It will create teams of support systems in case of disasters.
Connecting Marylanders to their government. This is State Circle.
Good evening. The big story around State Circle this week is emergency action on the coronavirus. In response to the first case of community transmission in Maryland, Governor Hogan announced a series of actions. Public schools will close for 2 weeks. Senior centers are closing. Large gatherings are banned. And the legislature is accelerating its work while limiting access.
And we believe that all of us need to take serious actions to limit day-to-day interactions and activities. And we all need to do our part to stop this virus from spreading. As I have repeatedly said, older people, and especially those with underlying health conditions, are more vulnerable and at significantly higher risk of contracting the disease. We are directing all hospitals across the state to immediately adopt new visitor policies to limit the spread of COVID-19, including allowing only one adult visitor per patient, prohibiting visitors under the age of 18, screening visitors for flu-like symptoms, and prohibiting visitors with recent international travel.
As the governor made his announcement, leaders of the General Assembly began implementing a number of measures to keep lawmakers, lobbyists, and the general public as safe as possible. Nancy Amato reports.
People are taking it very seriously, and as we all should, and thinking about where they're going, and people are canceling events.
From lobbyists to lawmakers.
We're all about the elbow bump with everyone, and I'm a hugger, kisser. I shake hands, I work the crowd. I love doing that. I love engaging with people, but it's all elbow bumps now.
No one's taking any chances as they conduct business at the General Assembly.
So what are you doing differently?
So I'm a germaphobe, and so I'm already, just being more conscious. One of the things that I've changed is, the whole elbow bump as opposed to, shaking other people's hands.
Business protocol isn't the only thing changing amidst concerns over the spread of the coronavirus.
Next week after crossover, we will likely have conversations with the chairs to limit bill hearings to sponsor only and ask that testimony be submitted to bill sponsors to be provided by the sponsors.
Senate President Bill Ferguson asked lawmakers to avoid physical contact with others and limit their attendance at meetings and receptions when they return to their districts. He also said until further notice, there will be no tours or rallies at the state capitol. Hours later, there would be another announcement, this one more restrictive. Effective immediately, the State House is now closed to the public, and only people with state-issued credentials will be allowed in. And non-essential employees and legislative staff will be required to work remotely. Despite these unprecedented steps, President Ferguson vows
we are going to continue to operate as normal. We are going to do the people's business. But we're going to take social distancing steps, things that are smart behavioral practices to ensure that we can limit the risk associated with the spread of this virus.
With every new case that emerges, so does discussion about what precautions should be taken next. Lawmakers will work through the weekend, and they're being encouraged to prioritize the most critical bills. In anticipation of school closures, lawmakers put in emergency legislation to make sure that no working Marylanders are penalized.
We've got some protections for workers who may have to stay at home and they don't lose their job.
Senator Brian Feldman says there's also emergency legislation to protect consumers from price gouging.
There was rushes on things like toilet paper and all these kinds of things. Well, in the broader market, when we have, again, natural disasters, there's always somebody willing or prepared to take advantage of the situation and jack up prices beyond, reason, and taking advantage of scarcity in the marketplace.
Concerns over the coronavirus has united lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. although not everyone is as gung-ho about carrying on.
We've passed a balanced budget through the state Senate, which is the only requirement that we have constitutionally in this state. If the House could pass it quickly, I say pass the balanced budget and we could head home.
I'm Nancy Yamada for State Circle.
Medical facilities are limiting visitors as they look to protect patients and staff. More on that from Charles Robinson.
Older people and those with underlying health conditions are much more vulnerable and at significantly higher risk of contracting the disease, with morbidity and mortality rates that are 3 to 5 times higher than the flu.
The COVID-19 virus is taking its toll on seniors. At the epicenter of the U.S. epidemic is a nursing home in Washington state.
We are very concerned about the vulnerability of older people. And we've certainly seen with this virus that seems to be a predilection for older people. So that's why we're taking steps now to protect them and to increase the border around so that they can have the kind of safety that they need in their residences.
During an all-cabinet meeting, the governor advised seniors to avoid crowds and large gatherings. He also directed them to consider delaying airplane travel.
So if you notice in the background, everybody who pulls up here at this retirement community, they will have their IDs checked. Not only that, if you don't work here, you're more than likely going to get turned away.
These are some of the recommendations from the Maryland Department of Health. Restrict access to visitors. Limit face-to-face contact. No international travel for staff, and anyone with virus symptoms should stop work.
You don't want it spread to a senior home. They're very susceptible to this virus. We saw what happened in Washington State. I think taking some steps to protect public health, I think is valuable. I think we got to be very careful. We don't want to panic, but we have to be careful. We don't want to put people's lives in jeopardy.
Well, usually folks who are in nursing home environments or facility environments are a little compromised. That is, they have physical illnesses, they might be frail, they might be more vulnerable and susceptible to any infection.
According to experts, the inconvenience may prove to be prudent in the long run. In Catonsville, I'm Charles Robinson for State Circle.
Many colleges around the state are moving to online classes. At the University of Maryland, there was a crash course for instructors to teach them how to teach online. Students and faculty say it'll be a challenge.
I'm going to be struggling with taking online classes. It's making a logic class. I'm not going to take that online.
It's great. We're having a longer spring break, but I kind of just want to get this semester done with.
I think it was a combination of a little bit of apprehension and also a little bit of induced stress and having to not only shift the content to an online format, but figure out how I would adjust assignments, exams, class discussions.
The university has asked students not to return to campus following spring break. The state's effort to upgrade 911 systems continues. Our Sue Copen says the last of a series of bills to move the emergency system into the next generation faced a hearing before a Senate committee.
Anne Arundel County 911, do you need police, fire, or ambulance?
The challenges of a 911 emergency center are many. And for those who are on the receiving end of the calls, the stress can be overwhelming. The legislation before the Senate Finance Committee is aimed at providing some much-needed help.
It will take care of the seriously traumatic experiences that our 911 specialists deal with every day.
Montgomery County Senator Cheryl Kagan is the chair of the 29-member commission that spent 2 years looking at how to improve the state's public safety system.
It will create teams of support systems in case of disasters or terrorism that can support each other across the state.
Caroline County's Director of Emergency Services, Anna Sierra, says the bill's inclusion of mental health assistance meets a critical need.
We're lucky in Caroline County that through insurance and a variety of other things, our 911 specialists do have access, but that's not the case everywhere. So this ensures that 911 specialists across the state have access to proper mental health resources for a job that is as stressful as you can imagine.
Another provision of the bill is compliance and enforcement of Carey's Law. That's a federal law intended to make certain that you get straight through to 911, no matter where you are or what phone you might use.
Also in the legislation, new accountability requirements.
If a county, either accidentally or through commission spends money that is destined for 911 on any other purpose, they will be required to report it and repay it and come up with a plan for repayment in the next fiscal year. We're really clear this money is desperately needed at our 911 centers.
University of Maryland at Baltimore Police Chief Alice Carey says she'd like to see some revisions in the bill, which would enable her department and others like it to be better plugged in and able to respond to emergencies.
We just want to be included into the language so that, we're not being overlooked as far as being part of this, first responders.
And as the state makes the shift to the next generation of 911, you can expect other changes as well.
In the future, you'll be able to actually send a text, send photos, send videos, and that's going to help our first responders to provide even better support in times of emergency.
I'm Sue Copen for State Circle.
A bill to expand the sales tax to digital services has been approved by the House of Delegates. The money would go to the Education Trust Fund. Opponents call it the TV tax because it would apply to cable bills along with computer downloads. Supporters said the bill merely catches up with ways economic activity has moved from physical to digital.
I don't think we should be taxing TV. When Governor Hogan was elected, he was elected because the ridiculous taxes that had come out of Annapolis, including the rain tax. So now we're going to have a TV tax that's going to make us the laughing stock of this nation.
This bill is about equity with our small businesses. Right now, you can buy books and you can buy movies in a brick and mortar store, and people are paying the sales tax. That should be the case with streaming services, and then with streaming services, people are getting movies and other shows, and that should be equitable with cable and satellite.
Legislative analysts forecast that the bill would raise over $100 million per year. A group of lawmakers is pushing the Hogan administration to reevaluate the future of the Conowingo Dam. They say a deal to renew the license of the dam fails to deal with pollutants piled up behind it. The debris and silt threatens the upper bay during storms. They say the license renewal waives the state's future rights to clean water.
This deal is just functionally not fair at all, and we have an opportunity, you all have an opportunity to stop this right now by passing this legislation and telling Maryland to put the water quality certification back in effect.
We want to get as much possible out of Exelon as we can legally and scientifically get. That's one aspect through the relicensing process. The second, we're very proud of the fact that we partnered with EPA, Pennsylvania, and the other states to develop a watershed implementation plan, a multi-state strategy where everybody has buy-in to reduce nutrient and sediment pollution far upstream of the Conowingo Dam itself.
The big dam on the Conowingo on the Susquehanna at Conowingo opened 90 years ago. Still to come tonight, more on how the coronavirus might impact the 90-day legislative session.
Can you tell us what you know?
Turning back now to the race for the White House.
The State Board of Elections voted Thursday to set up a new election.
It must be a very emotional day.
The world changed in the blink of an eye.
Children are at the heart of this story.
Drop your phone and just be in the moment.
You guys ready?
It's a thrill to see images of a new world for the first time.
I want to look back and say, I learned something. That is where transformation happens.
I see people cry on this show, and I'm like, what y'all doing, man?
Out of the water came this giant thing. That's incredible.
I feel it in my bones. This is so totally amazing. I feel it in my bones. And I know because
they hear that song and they're like, that's my story.
I feel it in my bones.
I have chills.
All of the joys, all of the sorrows.
The
That's where it comes from. The rest is history.
Feel it in my bones.
For the Political Roundtable this week, our Sue Copen is joined by Brian Sears of the Daily Record. Thanks for being with us. A lot of activity in Annapolis, sessions all weekend. What's going on?
Well, it's in part fallout from the events that have taken place and a number of other things. They're coming in for sort of an unusual weekend, Brian.
Yeah, we're coming in on Saturday, which is not particularly unusual for this time of the session, but something that I don't think I've seen in my 18 years down here is a Sunday session. We talked to a longtime observer down here who remembered one going back about 30 years ago. It's fair to say that Sunday sessions are rarer than hen's teeth down here.
But nobody said they're trying to get the work done so they can adjourn early.
Not in so many words.
Right. I mean, so committee chair people have been asked to prioritize bills, and they are certainly moving with some deliberate speed in an attempt to move things that are priorities out onto the floor. They would like to stay till the end of the session, but are assessing this on a day-by-day basis. And I think they're trying to set themselves up to get the most work done as possible before they have to get out of here.
We should point out that some of that speed is due to the fact that because of the circumstances resulting from the governor's announcement on Thursday with operations around here and throughout the state, that there are no members of the general public who will be actually attending any of the hearings that can go on, as you well know, for sometimes an extended period of time, that all they're going to have now as far as the hearings go will be the sponsor of a House bill or Senate bill, and that will just help to really speed things up.
And lobbyists have been effectively banned.
You know, I'm looking at over your shoulder at the room behind you where they cram 141 delegates into a small space. And, you know, God forbid anybody was sick. There's no social distancing on the floor of the House down there.
It's a little better in the Senate, but that's...
But not much.
Yeah. And I understand that the general public has now been banned from the House of Delegates building. One question about the speed of this. Legislature is going to pass some bills that the governor might want to veto. Would they want to pass those and leave town, or would they want to either stick around or come back at a time when the governor might have been forced to either sign or veto?
Look, they've been game planning this since they came in. There are always a number of bills that they were looking at to get on the governor's desk by March 25th, which is the last day that they have to get things to the governor to force him to sign or veto them before the end of the session. So all of that remains in play. And so I think bills, you know, for example, like the Kerwin bill would be something that they would want to try to get done early. And if he's going to veto it, I think they would like to be here for it. But again, those vetoes could be undone when the General Assembly comes back into session, either in a regular session, or, you know, we've heard talk that one of the options that's being looked at is the possibility of a special session if there's a need to come back and get other things done.
Yeah, I might point out that the Kerwin bill is in the Senate and up on, third reader on Saturday. Yep, so they are moving that through.
One state I know has postponed its primary election. Maryland's is at the very end of April. And I understand that we're seeing some interest in absentee voting.
Yeah, and what we have seen sort of week over week, the Board of Elections showed me some numbers that suggested the week before the governor made his announcement about the first positive cases in Maryland, there were roughly 800 or so on average per day of absentee ballots being requested. And that number has jumped up the following week on an average of a couple of hundred per day. So we are starting to see increased interest in absentee ballots. And I think that probably is likely to continue through the course of the state of emergency.
And something else to sort of keep in the back of your mind, Jeff, and you know about this, and I know Brian and I talked about this before, and that is once the session ends, that's open campaign season where the fundraisers start almost immediately. But in this environment, some of the very traditional methods of campaigning, whether it's door to door, whether it's a fundraising, a lot of that's going to go out the door.
Just half a minute here. Give me a sense of the mood. A couple of words to describe, I mean, the people in the press corps, the legislators you're interacting with. How's everybody doing?
Look, I think there's a sense that as of yesterday, when the governor made his announcement and made some of these declarations, including closing state buildings, there was a sense that things changed here in Maryland. And I think that hangs pretty heavily over the General Assembly, and they're very interested in doing their work with as much deliberate speed as they can. And if they don't need to be here, I think they're going to get out.
We have to leave it there. Brian Sears, you can read his work at thedailyrecord.com. Sue, thank you as well. Join us Monday for Direct Connection. We'll have a University of Maryland epidemiologist answering your questions Monday at 7. For all of us at MPT, thanks for watching and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.
Thank you for joining us for State Circle. Hi, everybody. I'm Tony Hill here with Aaron Crest. You know, here at MPT, part of our job is to bring you up-to-date news and information regarding your elected officials. And that's why we produce State Circle, to fill in an important local need that is underrepresented elsewhere on television, quite frankly. But we can only provide this service with your support, and that's how this works. You support us, and we bring you what we feel that you need, what you